Welcome to the first meeting of the Sustainable Development Panel. Are we recording? Yeah, we are recording now, folks. The first item is the election of chair, so please may I ask if there are any nominations for the chair, please?
Nominate Councillor Duncan.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any others? Then may I say that we put that to the vote, please? And with a show of hands, Councillor Hampton, you're duly elected, and you take over the chair, please. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Appointment of a vice chair. Are there any nominations?
Councillor Jones.
Yep, and I'll second that if I can. All those in favour of any other nominations? No, okay, all those in favour of Councillor Giles. Brilliant. And then do we have any apologies for absence? It looks like we're
Full house.
full house, excellent.
Oh,
And-
sorry, beg your pardon. Councillor Lubbock.
Apologies from Councillor Lubbock. Any declarations of interest? Nope. Minutes to prove the accuracy of the minutes of the meeting held on 28th of February 2023. I'm aware we've got new members. Can everyone?
Chair, just to point out that one of the actions was to attach the consultation response to the minutes of the meeting. They were emailed to members, and I have emailed it to the new members as well today, but because it was an email and consultation response, I didn't attach it to the minutes.
Great. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at those, and are we happy to approve? Yep.
Only you and Kate here.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Great. Then we've got one substantive item today on Greater Norwich Local Plan proposed examination submission on the requirement for gypsy and traveller pitches and allocation of sites for gypsy and traveller pitches. Shall I pass over on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Farrell. I'm the manager of the Greater Norwich Local Plan team. As you can see from my badge, I'm actually employed by the City Council. So I've worked here for many years, but for the last 7 years, I've been working on the local plan. We're now based here. The team is a mixture of staff from Broadland, Norwich and South Norfolk. We were previously based at Canterbury. We've been based here for years. And Greater Norwich Local Plan, if I can just give you a little bit of an introduction, if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, of course.
And then I'd like to talk about about the actual report itself, and then responding to the question that Councillor Osborne asked of Graham Nelson about consultation with the gypsy and traveller community. I've been taking that order. And please feel free to stop me and ask if you have any questions, follow up, clear any points. So, in terms of the Greater Norwich Local Plan itself, we started working on it in 2016. 2017, we really got working with a vengeance, formed the joint team. I gained my post, been working ever since on this. We submitted it in 2021, and we're currently at examination. So the inspectors are examining the plan. And one of the things that became clear before we submitted and has been part of the examination is we need to allocate sites for gypsy and traveller accommodation. Prior to that, no sites had come forward and none being proposed, but we've been working very hard to find sites. And this report is firstly about how many pitches do we need, and secondly, making recommendations for where those pitches should be based on the consultation that was held between January and March. In addition, between January and March, the consultation of 3 more sites were put forward. So we're consulting on them now. And the recommendation includes, there's 5 elements to the recommendation. The 5th element of that is that if any of those 3 sites are suitable to be recommended to the inspectors as well, that would be done under delegated authority. So it will be considered equally through the examination. Now, in terms of the report itself in a little bit more detail, So I'll just go through the recommendations, and as I said, please feel free to ask me questions. So on page 11 of the papers, the first recommendation is that the GNLP should include a minimum requirement of 52 gypsy and traveller pitches to meet the full ethnic need. Now, there's a little bit more detail about this in the report, but there was a court case in 2022 that made it clear that the previous approach that had been taken through some local plans to providing for gypsy and traveller needs but not meeting the full ethnic need, not including people who had ceased to travel, is not legal. So we've not gone down that route, and there was another example from central Lincolnshire where the inspectors made it clear that we must meet the full ethnic need for gypsies and travellers. So that is what we're doing. And our evidence shows that is 52 pitches between 2022 and 2038. Secondly, the second main element of the report is where should those pitches be? So, having done extensive consultation, we've identified 35 deliverable pitches through the allocation of sites in Stratton Strawless, Carlton Road, Fulsham, Wyndham and Corston. That will meet the need to 2027. Then, beyond that point, 10 developable pitches at the Kettering Depot, and then at the end of the plan period, we have extensive evidence that we have had windfall delivery over many years. Therefore, we can rely on that to provide some of the pitches at the end of the plan period. Now, the fourth recommendation refers to how we propose to modify the plan to take account of what I've just said. So there's quite a lot of detailed wording to change the plan, and that will be discussed at the forthcoming examination on this. By the way, I should have said the examination on this point is likely to take place in late July.
Sorry?
Late July, 25th of July. And then the fifth recommendation, I mentioned earlier, delegated authority, that any sites from this current consultation can be put forward to the inspectors. And in relation to that, there's one addition that will be made in tomorrow's Cabinet's papers, and we'll make it clear in that recommendation that what's called here the focused consultation in the second to last line, that should be referred to as the additional focused consultation. That's to differentiate between the consultation that happened now and what happened in January to March. So I'm now moving on to the amendments to tomorrow's Cabinet report. The second amendment relates to paragraph 20 of the report. So that's on page 15, thank you. Now in that paragraph, we are going to put more detail on how the consultation feedback has been taken account of. That paragraph 20 is rather short. So we have a lot more detail to be provided, including reference to two documents that are on the website. They are a focus consultation summary and focus consultation update. Those are documents H6.1 and H3.3. So there'll be clear reference to those so people can see that their consultation responses have been taken into account. The next changes to the report are on the same page, like 15 going on 16. There's a correction of two errors there. First bullet point, where it says Fulsham for 3 additional pitches, that should be 2. So that site has been consulted on for 2 additions, which is not 3. And the next correction relates to the final bullet point on page 16. Land off Brick Kiln Lane. That is incorrect. It should be Brick Kiln Road. Everywhere else on the website is correct, but that was an error. Okay, so those are the corrections, and that's my introduction. So before I talk about the direct involvement, the direct consultation with the Gypsy and Traveller community, are there any questions or comments or the overall?
Okay.
Questions, but maybe not detailed ones.
Okay. Okay, so shall I move on to? So, in terms of community engagement with the Gypsy and Traveller community. Now this is, I mentioned just now, the topic paper. That's H3.1. Page 10 of the topic paper summarises the community engagement with the Gypsy and Traveller community. So this has been done through the Norfolk and Suffolk Gypsy, Roma and Traveller Service, and part of the County Council. They engage with the Gypsy and Traveller community. That's their job, they do that all the time. So as sites have not previously been submitted, as I mentioned earlier, the partnership directly engaged NSGRTS, the Norfolk and Suffolk Gypsy and Traveller Service, to establish if members of the Gypsy and Traveller community knew of existing sites that could be expanded, first of all, or whether any other landlords wanted to bring forward new sites. So it's about sites, because we're lacking in sites. And the really important point with Gypsy and Traveller sites is you must have a willing landowner who will deliver these sites. You have to show at the examination to the inspectors that these sites will be deliverable. It's critical to achieve those numbers I talked about earlier. We have to have good evidence that sites can be delivered. So we engaged this organisation. During November 2022, their staff visited 14 existing Gypsy and Traveller sites, engaging directly with members of the community. And there's a letter on our website, letter H.1, H8.1, which sets out this work. As a result of this work, 3 new sites came forward for the consultation that was held in January to March. These were at Carlton Road, at Horsford, and at Horsham. So we gave 3 sites for consideration through that process. The partnership then reappointed the organisation to assist with encouraging participation in the consultation in January to March. And this led to a written response from the organisation on behalf of the Gypsy and Traveller community. This welcomed the GNLP approach to identifying sites and supported the nature of the direct engagement. And a further outcome of this was that another site came forward, and this is one I've already mentioned, at Brick Kiln Road, Heavingham, which is currently being consulted on. And this is, in the current consultation, this is a favoured option. So these are sites coming forward from the Gypsy and Traveller community. I think in every case they were expansion of existing sites. In addition, and this has been really key work, one of the members of our team has made spent a lot of time having positive phone discussions over an extended period of time. His name is Adam Banham, with individual members of the Gypsy and Traveller community who have either submitted sites or have considered doing so and have approached us. So he's spent extensive amounts of time talking through the issues associated with considering sites. The outcome of this engagement has been that 6 additional small sites owned by Gypsy and Travellers have come forward through the consultation for consideration. 4 of these have been identified as favoured options through the site assessment that officers did afterwards. 2 of these, at Carlton Road and unfortunately, as mentioned, are included in the sites recommended in this report, again, time. And one of them, Helium, I've already mentioned, is a favoured option in the current consultation. This work has generally fostered closer engagement with the Gypsy and Traveller community over planning issues. However, and there is a however in it, it's important to note that the consultation as a whole, in James and March, also led to some negative feedback about the Gypsy and Traveller community, particularly through social media and through flyers which were produced, over which, of course, we have no control, although we did report to the police a flyer that was produced and a social media post. In addition, with putting comments made on the website, we're very careful to go back to any people who have made comments that can be considered to be inappropriate. We went back to them and asked them to amend those comments. Most people did, some didn't. Those who didn't, their comments were not put on the website. So overall, I think we've had very good and extensive engagement with the Gypsy Traveller community over the issue, but it has to be said that still the consultation has been challenging, but that's the nature of such consultations.
Thank you very much both for the sort of general overview that I'm sure the newer members will appreciate, and for picking up some of those issues raised in advance. I will open it up for questions, comments, if... Yep.
Thank you very much. First of all, I should say I'm very new to the topic and I'm new to the council, so I apologize in advance if any of this isn't in the right place here. I've been reaching out to a Gypsy and Traveller activist called Stuart Carruthers, who has also sent an email to Mike Stronach. I don't know if that has been received by other members of the council as well, but I thought it might be helpful to read it out just to so I relay the points that he's making and that he thinks need to be addressed. So I don't wish to relay what he's saying, but I think it's important.
Sorry, who is this, please?
Taking into account. This is Stuart Carruthers. I'm sure I pronounced the family name.
We're in public meetings.
C-A-R-R-U-T-H-E-R.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, is he representing a... Sorry, can I just ask? I don't really need to know the name. We are in a public meeting, so just be careful about using names. But is he representing a particular body or something?
No, he's been a community activist and has defended others.
So if I just write
by
So is he a member of the Gypsy and Traveller community?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So he writes, "Hello, I'm aware that we are seeking to make another submission in relation to allocation of sites for Gypsy travellers in the Greater Norwich planning area. Could I suggest that you cease to seek to rely upon any RRR report? This has already been demonstrated not to be robust." So I think this is, here he's referring to a GTAA, so a Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment, that was conducted in 2022, which he says is problematic and does not assess the needs appropriately and underestimates the actual need. But I think it's also referenced in the papers we are discussing today. So it's a fact one that he basically says this might not be something we want to rely on because he underestimates the existing need. Then he continues, but I also suggest that you start with definitions as to what you mean. This is actually required as in planning policy for traveller sites. The Secretary of State made councils responsible for producing their own GTAAs, so Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessments, and has yet to make available any guidance. There have been about 40 councils that have produced definitions across England since 2012. They are all different. The terms that we're defining are gypsy site, pitch, plot, dwelling house. This is important as a caravan can be a dwelling house, as can a building, and residential. These definitions should be sorted out before the inspector examines the local plan DPP. So he argues that as long as these terms aren't really defined, it's problematic to decide how big they need to be, and how big a pitch needs to be, how big a plot should be, what kind of amenities need to be there. This needs to be defined first in order to then avoid any kind of subsequent challenges.
Excuse me, could I stop for a moment? Because I have read this email this morning, and it is being sent around senior officers. and there are some accusations that come up shortly.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't think should be read out in public readings. They're very much accusations which I personally have some concerns about and will be responded to. Unless you received a different version of the email.
Okay, I see. I think I know what you refer to. I know.
Could I suggest, would it be possible, rather than read out the email, I haven't seen the email, so I'm not exactly sure what's being referred to, would you be able to digest it into some questions or to Mike or things that we can follow up on rather than take it verbatim? And if you know that the bit in question here maybe if you can avoid it, the accusation.
That's not the present that's being asked, but I can try to summarize. And so I think the first point is about relying on the report by RRR, the GTAA, whether that is reliable. The second question
Could you talk slower, please? It's really difficult to, and also just to summarise, I think. Thank you.
Right, the first question is about the GTAA, whether that is reliable.
Yeah.
The second question is about the definitions in the report, that we rely on how we know these to be robust and that they won't be challenged. There's another question about the status of boat people, so we're referring to Berbers that are ethnic Gypsy and travellers, but how they will be accounted for. I have one more question I would like to add. If you have it's about Appendix A, it's about the changes that are being proposed. And my question is about, I think it states on it, we should look for the exact wording. It states that, planning applications that result in the loss of authorized features of plots will not be permitted unless alternative replacement features of plots are being provided elsewhere, or evidence demonstrates that the features of plots are no longer needed. And I was just wondering whether that includes any consultation of the people currently occupying these plots that have been authorized, but that will be replaced with other plots elsewhere.
Okay, so shall I respond, Chair?
If you're happy to, thank you.
Yes, I'll respond to the final one first. Yes, so it would take the amount of pictures available will be based on the most up-to-date evidence. So at present it's the 2022 evidence, but it's highly unlikely that there will be a planning application for the use of a gypsy and travel site for another use, and it would be unnecessary to retain it because we do need gypsy and travel pictures. So it would be unlikely with the evidence that those pictures weren't needed. They are needed.
Yeah, thank you. My question was very much for the case where a pitch might be replaced with a different pitch, whether a compulsory consultation with the people currently living in that area will be included in the regulations.
Yes, so that would be through a planning application and a consultation on the other location.
So there wouldn't be any security of tenure?
The security of tenure is not to do with the planning application.
My question is about a community occupying a certain pitch or plot, I don't know which is the right word, and then here being a planning application for that plot to be used for something else, which seems to be authorized in case an alternative plot is being made available. But I wonder whether there's anything that protects the people that are occupying that plot that is being applied for redevelopment, whether there's any protection of their tenure on this plot.
That would have to be considered through the actual planning application. But in the majority of cases, most of the sites we have, they are owned by the gypsies and travellers themselves. So that's an unlikely scenario. The other three sites that we're putting forward are owned by, one's a private landowner and the others are owned by councils. So again, it seems an unlikely scenario. But we have to have the ability for any proposal for the reuse of the site to be assessed. I think that wording makes sure that is as secure as possible, that good consideration will be given when a planning application comes in. And it seems to make sure that gypsy and traveller pictures will not be lost.
Okay, so you've got a few further outstanding questions from your rather before, and then if other people want to come in, maybe.
Okay, so the first point, the suggestion was made that our evidence-based gypsy and traveller assessment we have had done underestimates the number of pictures required. Now, we have every confidence that the evidence that we have is robust evidence. It's been used in many, in fact, methodology has been used for many other local plans, most recently the Central Lincolnshire local plan, which is found sound, and this will be part of the examination. So the inspectors will consider the evidence that's been done. The individual will have the opportunity at the examination to make those comments to the inspectors. So I think most of the things covered in that email are actually something that will either be addressed by the inspectors because they're part of the examination, or not addressed because they're not relevant to the examination. And the information provided in the email is quite broad. But specifically in relation to the assignment, it will be up to the inspectors. It's their decision, progress examination. But I think it's very likely that there will be discussion of that issue. Is this evidence robust? So that's the first point. The second point, the definitions. Well, the definitions are included. We do have those definitions in our work. And again, this will be a matter for discussion at the examination. Then, thirdly, about people living on boats. I think it has been explained to the individual. In Greater Norwich, the Broads Authority is responsible for the locations with rivers where there are more likely to be people wanting to live on boats on the river. So that's been it's being addressed through the Broads local plan. And that has been discussed previously.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Can I open it up to other members for questions? Councillor Osborne, then Councillor Driver.
Thanks. Thank you. Just to pick up on the questions said, I'm not sure I fully understand. I'm not sure I fully understood the point about the constraint about the security of tenure and how, as my understanding that relates to the point that Councillor Petticoat was making about sites being sold off and making sure that that doesn't mean that people who are living on those sites are left without somewhere to live. And I'm not sure that planning application consultation is necessarily answering that point.
Well, I think the point I'm trying to make is that the majority of these sites we're proposing are owned by the gypsies and travellers themselves. They own these sites, so that's as much security as tenure as I think we can make. Otherwise, the other sites we're proposing, there's only one site that's owned by a private individual. He has committed to submitting the site as a gypsy and traveller site. I can't see any reason why he would then apply to use it for another use. And this policy provides the best security we can. And then the other site is owned by South Norfolk Council. Again, I can't see any reason why that situation would change. But you can't have security of tenure through planning applications. That's not how the system works.
The question about is about the So my understanding is that one of the questions about the RRR report is that it underestimates the size of the population. From what you were saying, it was confident that the RRR report is sound on that. Is it right that the planning inspector has already identified that the risks of underestimating some of the population?
No, this will be a matter for discussion at the hearings shortly. I can't see why a methodology that has been used elsewhere would be found to be unsound in this case, but that's a matter for the inspectors. Mr. Craven, sorry, the individual has objected to this methodology elsewhere as well, and has not been supported by inspectors.
My question is, next session about the need for Showman's site. Showman's site.
Showman's guild.
Yes, that site. I don't know the correct number. So my understanding is one of the name, but there's now an increasing number of showmen in the area who need a site. Whether that is considered, can that be part of what is in the GNLP in this section?
Yeah, we worked with the Showman's Guild, but they came to the view that they didn't want a specific site identified. They wanted that permissive policy that we've just talked about to allow the site to come forward where they chose to at the right time, and that might not even be within Greater Norwich. So we have a statement of common ground with them where we agreed that they didn't want to see a specific site allocated because they wanted more freedom to change their view over time.
Thank you. Councillor Driver?
Yeah, mine's a bit of a different question. How do people get on these sites? If I'm gypsy and travelling around, how do I get on? I don't know, there's next to 4 sites, or each 4 pictures there, 3 there, and if they are by the gypsy community themselves, are they sort of like families, and you would only get on there if you were a part of that family, or if I came from Ireland over here and wanted to settle in Greater Norwich, what are my chances of getting one of the pictures?
So that's the role of the County Council group who I mentioned earlier, the Gypsy and Traveller.
So I just wondered where people turn up and they want to car parks and sites and stuff like that.
So,
how do they transfer off there into it?
It's partly through the Gypsy and Traveller accommodation service, Norfolk and Suffolk Gypsy Rover and Traveller service. If you arrive in an area and you say you need a site, you can go through them. But also, for the sites are owned by Gypsy and Travellers, should there's a network of people contacting each other, and we found that through the discussions we have had.
So if they don't like it, you won't get on it, if you know what I mean, yeah? Or
Well, no.
there ain't nothing to force anyone to say, well, you've got 3 pictures, and we've got 2 in the area who need accommodation. Can we have any say at all to say, can you take these 2, please? Or?
And that's the role of that group there.
And do they actually do that now and do it work?
Yeah, that's what they do, and that's how we enable pictures to be filmed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Champion?
I was just curious, earlier on you were talking about consultation and some of the derogatory language which was used therein, and the removal of some comments if they didn't want to amend. Is there going to be any follow-up action? The prejudice which is displayed there evidently is in the community. Are we doing anything to sort of challenge that?
For the egregious ones, we reported them to the police. I'm not aware that the police are following them up. But we were absolutely clear in going back to individuals who had made, sometimes unwittingly, negative comments. I said that this is not appropriate, and we gave reasons why. And as I said, most of them changed, some didn't want to. And I'm afraid that beyond that, there's nothing we can do other than to not put those comments on the website, which is what we did. LLC has thought this through very carefully beforehand. It's a matter of considering discussion what is and isn't appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Any further questions? Councillor Osborne?
Just when you were talking through the consultation earlier, you mentioned that 6 additional sites were proposed as a result of staff member talking to the GRT.
Through the whole process.
Yeah, and 4 of those were taken before disposed options. What happened to the other 2? Or was that the 2 that were you mentioned before, and then you mentioned the other 2?
So I'll have to. So one of them was subsequently withdrawn because the site owner decided she didn't any longer want to have the site considered. And the other one, when we did the site's appraisal process, it was identified as not being suitable for highways reasons. It's on a very
Okay, so that's the.
Yeah.
Just so I understand the sites withdrawn. So essentially this allocates these sites as pictures in the GNLP, but then can the site owner at any point within the next 16 years withdraw that site? How's that?
No, so this was withdrawn after the consultation. We got in, well, we were in some contact with the site owner, and she made it clear after the consultation she didn't want her site to be considered through this route. She withdrew it then. Now, we have contacted all of the site, we kept in contact with all of the site owners. Everybody who has a site in is happy for it to be in. Made that we've done a lot of work on that, and I mentioned earlier having a willing landowner is absolutely critical. So we're in a position where we're confident that all of those sites that we are proposing can be delivered.
And once they are, once they are allocated, they will be withdrawn.
No, they'll be allocated for that purpose.
Yeah.
Then it will take the normal planning process whereby you'll need to apply for planning permission for that site. But even if the individual who owned it sold it on, that allocation still remains.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Driver.
Yes, very good report, by the way, when reading about it and what the way forward is. Do we need to say how much we were relying on the gypsy community themselves to own nearly all these pictures, where they're actually going to put extra pictures on there for the gypsies to go to? I see there's only 2 from councils. How many extra ones are there in Norfolk, and have we got enough? Well, you said we need 52 anyway. Why aren't there any more from councils coming forward to have more pictures on? I see the one in Norwich is, or 2 in Norwich, are really big sites. Is that why we're not increasing them?
Norwich sites are pretty much built out,
Yeah.
so they're not included in the figures for future need. They're taken account of in the current.
And how many more sites are there like that which we don't know of and just report?
So those are the ones we refer to as windfall sites. So we've included all of those that we know are very likely to deliver, and they will be allocated. Other ones that come forward we don't know about yet, they can come forward under this policy that we call a permissive policy, so that will allow other sites to come forward.
Okay, it just seems like there's a lot of pressure being put on a lot of the sites which are already here, and local authorities are not doing enough to provide other sites.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering what pressure the whole group on us, South Norfolk, Border and then Norwich, can actually bring this to a better solution.
Yeah, we did look long and hard at land owned by the 3 local authorities and the county council, and there was a lot of work done. The South Norfolk site was the one that Kettering Depot was the one that came forward. Others were considered, but for various reasons weren't suitable.
And we can't say, you know, these new developments go up near Herisett and Wyndham and places like that. Thousands and thousands of houses being built in the social movement, and we can't have a gypsy site. So, because not in my backyard, or the local authority say, no, we don't want gypsy sites here, or what is the main reason for? Because the land is there.
That's an alternative approach that could have been taken, but earlier in the process, we identified that as one of the ways we could have done it, rather than actually identifying specific sites, having a part of the larger sites for gypsies and travel, larger housing sites. That wasn't the site that the approach that was decided on at that time 3 or 4 years ago.
It's up by the local authorities or something.
Yeah, it was
So
part,
with the new local authorities change, could we actually do anything at this late stage or not?
no, it's at such a late stage, it's
Okay.
very difficult to do that.
Thanks. Councillor Hoshner.
Thank you. I've got a question about the proposed site or potential site at the Wyndham Recycling Centre. I was just wondering about the likelihood of the land being contaminated because it is being mentioned, and what would happen in the case that that doesn't turn out to be an appropriate site.
So initial assessments done, it's an appropriate site, but decontamination will be necessary, so that's why that's in the policy. And also with that site, what we've done, I think you've spotted it earlier, we've combined it with the other site on in the same lane, on Stray Round Lane, to ensure that no development can come forward in that location until the waste recycling centre has been closed.
Any further questions? Councillor Oliver?
No, I hope it's a question rather than a statement. I just really wanted to highlight, I suppose it's going back a bit in a way, that just to highlight that the plots and pitches contained in here are not the only source of accommodation for gypsy Roman traveller people. I just wanted to point that out, that this only covers one small aspect of accommodation, because there are lots of people who are also settled and have tendencies to own their own homes, and are also able to travel as and when they see fit. So maybe that's something positive to that.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. The legal decision made it clear that gypsy travellers who ceased to travel, they still should have the opportunity to have a pitch if they wish to do so, and that was a critical element in that discussion. But yes, of course, lots of members of the community have permanent bricks and mortar accommodation.
Thank you. Any more questions? Is that Councillor Giles?
Yeah, it's more of a statement really, but I just, from a political perspective, the South Norfolk District Council, if they're listening to this, I think it's really important we get on and unblock this final stage, preventing the GNLP going through. We know that the gypsy and traveller communities face multiple disadvantages, and it's important we provide for them as we provide for any community to meet our public sector equality duty and not discriminate in the production of our plan.
Can I just respond to that by saying South Norfolk did consider the Cabinet report yesterday and it was passed.
Oh, very good. That was irrelevant.
Yeah. Any last questions? It feels like we're getting to close.
Just this will now go through the regular cabinet, so Portland, Norwich tomorrow.
Broadland at 6 o'clock this evening, Norwich tomorrow.
Yeah, and then it goes to the planning inspector.
Yes, so shall I explain the next steps? Yeah. So, assuming we get agreement tomorrow from Norwich and today from Broadland, we will then, with the amendments, we'll submit this to the planning inspectors. There will be examination hearings where all the issues associated with this are discussed. I think it's July the 25th, it's certainly the end of July.
And that's where members of the public can.
Those people who have responded to the consultation will be invited to appear if they wish to, such as the person that we previously mentioned. Other members of the public will be able to watch it online. Then the next step after that, all being well, is in September and October, there will be a consultation on the main modifications to the plan. So that's the changes to the plan. So in this case, we wrote out what the modifications in relation to gypsy and travellers are, but there's going to be a wider set of modifications to the plan in general. That will be consulted on. After that consultation, the inspectors will write their report on the plan. Fingers crossed they'll say it's sound. And then in the new year, the councils, 3 councils from the 3 districts, will vote on whether to adopt the plan or not. And it's really important to note that you can only adopt a local plan with the inspector's modifications. You can't say, oh, we don't like that modification, we don't like that modification. You can only adopt it with the modifications.
Thank you again. So the report that's come to us, it's got the recommendations going to Cabinet tomorrow. Is it appropriate for the panel to also support them ahead of them? How do we?
Sorry. Chair, the recommendation is for the committee to note the content of the report, and the recommendation to you is to recommend that Cabinet agrees the points 1 to 5.
Brilliant, thank you. And we went through the 5 points earlier. Is everyone content to endorse them, or any further comments specifically about endorsing them? Should we do a show of hands on that? All those happy to endorse the recommendation?
Which points are we endorsing here?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So to note the content of the report and recommend that Cabinet agrees to submit to the independent inspectors of the Greater Norwich local plan that amend the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that were addressed earlier. Councillor Osborne.
Given the questions that were raised about the RRR report, I don't have the knowledge to know whether the proposal meet the legal need. I'm not sure that I personally can endorse that, but I'm happy to trust judgment on that.
That's a suggestion there. It will go through an independent examiner to make that choice.
That's the thing. I only trust the independent examiner, not the councillors here.
So the recommendation is submitted to the independent examiner.
Yeah.
So I would have thought that's okay to do.
Yeah, so the top line is we agree for it to go in front of them, so it's not us making that specific decision. Yeah, Councillor.
Are there any downsides to the council from the inspectors rejecting?
So this plan has been worked on for a number of years, and it's absolutely critical to guiding developments in the whole area. Gypsies and traveller issue is the one remaining issue out of many issues, because it covers the economy, it covers sustainability, lots and lots of issues. If we don't have a plan, it creates lots of problems for us. One example, it affects Norwich less, but certainly affects Broad and South Norfolk. If you don't have a plan, planning applications can be made on land that has not been identified for housing use, and much more likely to get permission if you don't have a plan to say, yes, it's a suitable site, that isn't a suitable site. So really that's critical we get this plan finished, which I think was what you were referring to.
Yeah, so hopefully that's clarified a bit. So just if we do back to that recommendation, just one last show of hands. So to note the content of the report and recommend that Cabinet agrees to submit to the independent inspectors of the Greater Norwich local plan. A show of hands on whether that's a principle we can accept as a committee.
There's a majority of hands. Shows I'm not taking count.
Okay, so majority, fine. So majority. In which case, everything all any? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're done.
Yep. Thank you very much, Mike, and members for your contributions.